Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are diving deep into your stack of sources, turning complex celestial movements, ancient wisdom, and modern strategy notes into a single, cohesive, and highly actionable plan. If you're a Capricorn, this deep dive is absolutely custom-built for your monumental year ahead, 2026.
It really is. This is more than just a forecast. It's, I'd say, a strategic mandate.
Yeah.
The sources we analyzed were, well, they were completely unanimous. 2026 is a seismic, transformative year for Capricorns. It's demanding a complete internal restructure.
An internal restructure, okay.
And the central mission, which we really cannot overstate, is defined by this necessary, urgent separation. You have to start building everyone else's empires, which, Capricorns are so good at, and focus fiercely, relentlessly on stabilizing your own foundation.
I love that sense of ownership. It's time to claim back all that focused Saturnian energy that you usually spend just climbing external ladders.
Okay.
Let's unpack this energetic backdrop, because 2026 isn't just a random year, it's a cosmic reset. Numerologically, if you add up the digits, 2026, it resolves to the number 1, and that is pure initiation, radical authenticity. Yeah. It's a call to self-reliance.
Precisely. We're not just turning a calendar page here, we're stepping into the absolute beginning of a new 9-year cycle, both globally and personally. I mean, think back to 2025. That was a 9-year, the year of completion. In tarot, that's often symbolized by the hermit.
Right. Solitude, inner work, deep introspection, getting your ducks in a row.
Exactly. The phase where you go inward to figure out what's broken before you try to fix the world.
Right.
And now 2026 arrives as the 1 year, which often pairs with the Tarot's 10, the Wheel of Fortune. This signals a massive turning point, movement. The gears of fate are actually engaging, and cycles of change are becoming visible and unavoidable.
So those seeds you planted in solitude during 2025, the self-awareness you gained, are now demanding to be seen.
They are. If you felt stagnant last year, the universe is now physically spinning that wheel. It's forcing forward motion.
Okay, so if the hermit told you what to do, the Wheel of Fortune is now providing the momentum to actually do it. But momentum can be turbulent.
It can be, totally. And the direction of that turn depends entirely on the intention you set. For Capricorns, who just thrive on structure and planning, the material defines the core keywords for this year as discipline, endurance, transformation, innovation, courage, authenticity, and, I find this one the most poetic,
What's that?
relieved pressure. This year relies on your signature resilience to navigate these shifts that are going to primarily hit, home, money, and your personal identity.
Relief pressure is huge, especially for a sign that just burdens itself with impossible expectations. But what is physically driving this massive internal shift? We have to introduce the main event, the monumental move of Saturn, your ruling planet.
This is it. This is the core engine of the 2026 strategy. Saturn, the planetary ruler of Capricorn, enters the assertive sign of Aries on February 13th. And astrologically, this places Saturn firmly in Capricorn's 4th house.
The 4th house. That's the root system, isn't it? Home, family, foundation, emotional security, ancestry.
It is the deepest, most private layer of your life. And for a sign whose traditional focus is the 10th house, public life, career, status, achievement.
It's a complete opposite.
Exactly. This transit is a complete 3-year energetic reorientation. Saturn demands structure, responsibility, and maturity wherever it goes. So when it lands in the 4th house, it's basically saying your external achievements are only as stable as the private foundation they rest on. Go home and fix the foundation.
So if Capricorn's usual strategy is like a 247 climb up the corporate mountain, 2026 is saying, stop climbing. Go home, check the structure of the mountain itself, and make sure it can even support the summit you're aiming for. This sounds like an unavoidable invitation to some deep emotional work.
It is. This forces a focus on the private domain, which is often the area Capricorns neglect. It encourages responsible, long-term decisions about your living situation. I mean, this could be anything from a literal move, buying property, a significant renovation, or, and this is crucial setting mature, adult boundaries with family members.
Right. Family members who might still be relying on old dynamics.
Exactly.
Okay, let's dedicate some real time to this great interior renovation. Because Saturn in the 4th house sounds intense. It's mandating that Capricorns finally take the wheel at home. To address the deep emotional stuff they often successfully avoid by just being the most disciplined person in the office.
It absolutely demands you stabilize your private life. You have to become the authority in your own home, not just your career. But what makes this so powerful is that this personal restructuring isn't happening in a vacuum. It coincides with one of the most significant collective transits of our era,
It is.
the generational Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which occurs in the same sign, Aries, also in February 2026 at 0 degrees.
Wow. Okay, that intersection point is massive. You have Saturn, the planet of hard reality, boundaries, structure, meeting Neptune, the planet of ideals, dissolution, spirituality,
Divine insight.
and it's all launching in Aries, the sign of bold action, courage, self-initiation. It sounds like a forced collision between the practical and the poetic.
That's a perfect way to put it. And to grasp the significance, let's just connect this to history for a second. The last time these two met was in 1989, and it happened in Capricorn.
Okay.
And since Capricorn rules global structures, systems, governments, that conjunction caused massive dissolution. The fall of the Berlin Wall, the collapse of the Soviet Union, a huge shift in global economic ideology. The Saturnian structure in its own sign was ruthlessly challenged and, well, fractured by Neptune's dissolving influence.
So the 89 alignment broke external structures. What does the 2026 alignment happening in Aries, the individual self, mean for the Capricorn today?
It means the challenge shifts from the macro to the micro. The 1989 event dissolved external systems, paving the way for a new reality. The 2026 event urges Capricorns to take those revolutionary, heart-centered Neptunian insights, the lessons of compassion and integrity, and act on them with Aries' purpose and courage, right there in their internal life.
You are dismantling the old, rigid emotional systems you inherited or built yourself, and you're replacing them with structures built on genuine emotional truth.
That's it.
This truly feels like rebuilding the foundation from the dirt up. I noticed the source material heavily emphasizes achieving emotional clarity and dealing with the shadow self. How does this transit specifically force Capricorns to confront, unhealed traumas?
Saturn's presence in the fourth house just shines a spotlight, forcing accountability. The shadow self refers to those unhealed traumas, emotional baggage, negative core beliefs.
Often from childhood or family systems.
Right. This stuff Capricorns usually just stuff down to maintain their public composure. Saturn demands maturity. It means you must finally process this material so it stops sabotaging your efforts. The whole year requires balancing your inherent discipline with genuine emotional openness, which, for Capricorn, is often the scariest thing in the world.
That kind of deep internal pressure can be so overwhelming. As the proxy for the listener, I have to ask about the spiritual remedy they provided. The sources recommend a massive commitment, a pilgrimage to Bhimashankar Jyotirlinga in Maharashtra, India. For someone already struggling with boundary setting and home life stress, that sounds like a huge undertaking. Why this specific, geographically distant ritual?
That's an excellent, necessary question because it really speaks to the deep karmic nature of Saturn. A Jyotirlinga is a devotional shrine of Shiva, representing a pillar of light, and they are potent energy centers in Hindu tradition. Shiva is considered the master of transformation and dissolution. So the pilgrimage isn't about escaping reality. It's about accessing a specific energetic pathway for karmic release.
Okay, so what makes Bhimashankar specifically aligned with the Capricorn struggle?
Bhimashankar is tied to the myth of the demon Tripurasura and the transformation of great effort into divine protection. For Capricorns whose lives are defined by structure, endurance, sometimes excessive effort, that constant striving, this pilgrimage is intended to facilitate a deep spiritual awakening that reframes the relationship with labor and duty.
So it targets that specific emotional heaviness.
And the need to release past karmic ties related to excessive discipline. It helps them transform their burden into pure, clear spiritual light.
That connection makes sense, purifying the drive. This also ties into the influence of Ketu, the south node, which is pushing for detachment. Ketu wants them to release rigid ideas about what home or family should be, leading them towards something more philosophical by the end of the year.
Exactly. The Capricorn may have the perfect job, the perfect house, the perfect family structure, but Ketu's influence can bring this internal feeling of distance, a feeling of, why am I not truly happy? This detachment, this necessary release of idealization, pushes them toward a deeper, more philosophical outlook as they finish the year, forcing them to find happiness independent of material achievement.
This massive emotional and practical restructuring is bound to create some turbulence. Let's talk timing. When should Capricorns be hyper-aware of friction in their private lives, family communications, or living situations?
We identified 3 main periods of challenge where discipline will be absolutely key. First, February, right around the Saturn shift.
Okay.
This is the initial friction of change, a fight about money for the renovation, a sudden family need, or just difficulty adjusting to the new boundaries you try to set.
The resistance phase.
Yeah.
Got it. What comes next?
Second, July. Particularly the first 3 weeks, when Mercury retrogrades in Cancer, the sign directly opposite Capricorn. Cancer rules the home and emotions, so this tests your relationship dynamics and communication clarity. You have to slow down your reactions during July, ensuring you articulate your newly defined needs without resorting to old defensive habits.
And miscommunications are likely then.
Highly likely, especially about finances, home duties, or shared history.
And the third period, which sounds like the most complex due to multiple retrogrades.
Late October and November. This is a double whammy. You have retrogrades of both Mercury and Saturn. This combination will intensify miscommunications and potentially drag up old emotional loops in relationships, possibly made worse by third-party influences or unhealed parental dynamics. The retrogrades of Saturn and Mercury generally intensify emotional volatility and distance in marital relationships, making every small disagreement feel monumental.
That is when the hard work of this whole section is truly tested.
It is.
So the remedy for these volatile periods is not complicated, but it requires consistency. The sources highly recommend journaling, especially around the full moons, to process and release emotional clutter.
Absolutely consistent journaling. Capricorns often intellectualize their feelings. Journaling forces the feelings onto the page and out of the system. The specific crystal suggested for grounding and protection during these releases is snowflake obsidian. It aids in psychic cleansing, helps integrate spiritual insights with practical reality, and processes that deep emotional material that inevitably comes up during those retrogrades.
It's the tool for navigating the emotional mess Saturn is forcing them to clean up.
Exactly.
All right, we've secured the foundation, cleared out the emotional debris. Now let's transition smoothly to the financial strategy. Capricorns are famous for their tireless hustle, but 2026 demands a complete shift from working harder to working smarter. How is this mandated cosmically?
This strategic shift is driven by Jupiter, the planet of expansion and abundance, spending the first half of the year traversing your 8th house. The 8th house is not about earned income, that's the 2nd house. It governs shared resources, debt, taxes, investments, inheritances, settlements, other people's money.
Okay, so this is about leveraging existing assets and structures, not just clocking more hours. What does this mean in practical terms for the listener?
This placement is extremely beneficial for financial restructuring. It's excellent for paying down significant high-interest debt, refinancing loans under better terms, seeing major returns on existing investments.
Or benefiting from a settlement or inheritance.
Exactly. Or even a business funding arrangement. This is where Jupiter helps you capitalize on diligence you've already invested.
The source material is very specific, stating financial gains are tied purely to effort, not luck, and that patience will be tested. What patience are they referring to?
The patience required is key, particularly because the first quarter of the year, Q1, will likely see higher expenditures. The influence of Rahu and Ketu, which we'll get into more, often creates financial drains at the start of a cycle. You might be investing heavily in your home renovation or a new business venture. The transformation is promised, but it requires diligent waiting and strategic budgeting, not instant gratification. It happens in stages.
Right, not all at once. Moving into career, which is usually Capricorn's strongest domain, what kind of transformation are we looking at? You mentioned a tech tsunami.
The overall career outlook remains highly purposeful with strong potential for advancement. Foreign job placements or significant elevation in status are possible. But the method of operation has to undergo a radical shift due to the influence of Rahu, which is in Capricorn, governing innovation, foreign elements, and technology.
Okay, this is where we need to get specific and address the critique about generalized advice. What kind of technological skills should the Capricorn prioritize to surf this tsunami?
Rahu demands integration with the future. So for Capricorns who specialize in structure, data, and management, the priority should be specific digital adaptation skills, things like mastering automation tools, learning advanced data synthesis, and particularly focusing on prompt engineering for generative AI. Capricorns should be using AI extensively to automate routine tasks.
Allowing them to focus on high-level strategic decision-making.
Yes.
So if you're a Capricorn manager, you shouldn't be afraid of the technology replacing you. You should be mastering the technology so you can manage a far greater workload with fewer hours. It's about leveraging technology for leverage.
Absolutely. It's about adopting unconventional methods to generate wealth, heavily leaning into digital adaptation, self-employment, and solopreneurship. The old corporate ladder might feel unstable. The material suggests building your own highly efficient, technologically augmented structure is the safest path.
But the sources caution about competition and stress early in the year.
The competition will be extremely high, especially January through March. This adds significant stress. And here's the other critical caution. Avoid working in isolation. Capricorns are famously prone to retreating into their work shells, working relentlessly alone. The sources warn that this isolation will lead directly to burnout and restrict growth. You must actively seek strategic collaboration, mentorship, and external connections to mitigate that Q1 stress.
Let's define the timeline for financial and career milestones so the listener knows when to push and when to research.
Okay. Q1, January through March, is the R&D and intense discipline phase. You have to research every new project and investment thoroughly. This is the time to spend carefully, knowing that expenditures are high. Focus on structuring the foundation of the new venture, the business plan, the technology integration, without expecting immediate monetary results.
When do we start seeing this shift from internal planning to external reward?
Post-May, June. This is when Jupiter shifts into the 7th house, which is the house of partnerships and open enemies. But this shift is fantastic for business. It immediately improves client-based work, contractual agreements, and overall business growth through alliances and collaborations. Performance and professional stability improves significantly in the second half of the year. The period between June and October is noted as the strongest for both career expansion and new dependable partnerships.
That's a powerful timing mechanism. Structure and research early, collaborate, and expand late. So what are the essential do's and don'ts for the financial strategy?
The overarching strategy is long-term vision. Focus on 2 to 3 years of strategic development for solid, lasting results. The explicit mandate is, do plan finances strategically and upgrade your skills and confidence. Do not take shortcuts. Saturn punishes fast money. And crucially, do not share your plans prematurely. Work in silence.
That the new structure stabilize internally before facing external scrutiny. Now that we've secured the home foundation and the financial strategy, let's talk about love and partnerships. The underlying theme here seems to be vulnerability as a prerequisite for success. After all that work reinforcing the internal structure, Capricorn must now invite someone into the newly fortified space.
This is where the emotional labor of Section 2 really pays off. Relationships are under a nurturing microscope. Jupiter, in the first half of 2026, fosters growth, healing, and emotional safety in close bonds. For committed couples, this is a beautiful time for major milestones, consolidating finances, moving in together, navigating co-parenting.
Or just dealing with major family changes with mutual support.
Yes.
It sounds like the relationship will be stress-tested, but successfully. You're finding out if your partner is someone you can depend on when the home foundation is shaking. And there's a critical moment of truth highlighted for mid-year.
That moment is the full moon in Capricorn on June 29th. This is highly visible a reckoning. It forces a clear look at your personal needs versus the demands of the relationship. And since Capricorns often minimize their own needs for the sake of stability, the source material gives explicit permission. It is okay to ask for more support. This full moon demands self-prioritization.
And the interesting connection here is that prioritizing self-love and self-worth is said to expand earning potential and confidence. It's all interconnected.
It is. Self-worth is the energetic baseline for attracting abundance in the 7th house, which is partnerships, and the 8th house, shared resources. If you don't value your time and energy, how can you expect a partner or a client to value it?
That's a great point. Let's turn to singles. We know Capricorns are guarded, meticulous about who they let into their orbit, but the sources suggest that guarded shell is finally set to crack open.
Singles are strongly encouraged to actively open up emotionally, moving beyond observation and analysis into the emotional world. The first half of the year may feel frustratingly slow or stagnant in terms of finding meaningful connections. But that slowness is a gift.
And so,
It's the time necessary to clarify what you truly want and need, to prepare the internal space.
so you're renovating the emotional room before the right tenant arrives. Where might they find meaningful connections later in the year?
Post-mid-year, with Jupiter moving into the 7th house, meaningful partners are more likely to be met through social or professional connections, or even through established alliances. The key caution for singles is to avoid repeating past patterns or becoming tangled in wool-like heartbreaks. That phrase refers to complicated, messy emotional ties that are just difficult to unravel.
That requires actively clearing the heart space. Let's clarify the specific tools recommended for that heart healing.
The spiritual remedy suggested is to use rhodochrosite or ruby zoisite. We need to explain why ruby zoisite is particularly potent here. Zoisite often combines green and red-pink colors, and it works uniquely on both the upper and lower heart chakras, the green focusing on universal love, and the pink on emotional healing and self-compassion. This balance is exactly what the guarded Capricorn needs. They're encouraged to use these crystals during meditation or to chant the green Tara mantra, which helps clear obstacles and attract the right partner who aligns with their spiritual path.
For married natives or long-term couples, the sources mention emotional distance and potential conflict early in the year due to that, long-standing difficulty expressing vulnerability.
That reserved and cautious nature in love can create a chasm when Saturn starts demanding deep emotional truth. The solution to navigating conflict lies entirely in patience and empathy. This is critical, especially during the Mercury-Saturn retrogrades when every small miscommunication is intensified.
And the caution about third-party influence.
Yes. The Rahu influence can sometimes inflate a small, manageable issue into a massive, catastrophic problem. Rahu exaggerates, it sensationalizes. A tiny disagreement over finances, if left unaddressed, can, as the material suggests, become the equivalent of a small sword wound becoming a fatal cut. Practicing honest, vulnerable communication, especially during those volatile periods, is crucial to prevent minor issues from becoming existential threats to the relationship. But the relationship will find a renewed rhythm and reconnection in the middle of the year.
Okay, good. So particularly after June.
Yes. Mutual respect and a deeper understanding of each other's restructured needs will grow, provided you commit to the emotional honesty Saturn demands.
The core takeaway across all relationship statuses remains consistent. Vulnerability is the new foundation for stability.
Yeah.
You have to risk feeling to find the emotional safety and growth that Jupiter is offering.
That's it.
Okay, we have the strategic overview. Now we move to the actionable daily plan. This section synthesizes the daily actions, health tips, and spiritual remedies to ensure the Capricorn can stay grounded while navigating these massive shifts. This structure and discipline is exactly what their ruler, Saturn, rewards.
Starting with health, the sources predict mixed results, requiring proactive lifestyle work. The good news is that Saturn in the third house enhances endurance, which is great for sustained efforts in work or fitness.
But the internal system is under pressure.
Indeed. There's a strong, difficult aspect from Saturn to the fifth house, which governs the stomach, digestion, and creativity. This suggests stomach and digestion issues, specifically acidity or difficulty processing food under stress. The advice is highly practical. Avoid processed food and prioritize warm, home-cooked meals to reduce inflammation and indigestion.
And what should they prioritize early in the year when the shifts are most intense?
Since the early year brings potential cold or chest-related issues, coughs, mucus formation physical wellness must focus on regulating temperature and breath. The routine should include drinking warm water, adding turmeric water first thing in the morning, and maintaining a non-negotiable disciplined diet and exercise schedule. After April-May, provided this routine is established, physical health shows marked improvement.
What about mental wellness? Relationship stress, financial planning, internal transformation that's bound to generate anxiety.
Mental health fluctuations are likely, specifically manifesting through relationship stress that can lead to unhealthy eating habits, either over or under eating. The spiritual focus here is the solar plexus chakra, Manipura, the center for personal power, will, resilience, and also physical digestion.
Let's clarify this for the listener. Why is the solar plexus so critical right now?
Because Saturn in the fourth house is challenging the Capricorn's self-worth and confidence, where they draw their internal power. The solar plexus is where our willpower resides. By strengthening the center, you enhance the resilience needed to push through the emotional work and maintain the discipline required in the face of anxiety.
And the crystal recommendation for that.
Crystals associated with the solar plexus fire, agate and carnelian, are recommended to build strength and confidence. The affirmation provided is a practical tool. My body is resilient, balanced, and deeply supported by healing energy every day, recited ideally with one hand on the heart and one on the stomach to physically anchor the feeling of balance.
Now we move into Vastu and spiritual remedies, the specific daily plan for alignment. We start with harmonizing the sun energy.
Vastu is an ancient Indian science of architecture that governs how energy flows through space. Aligning with the sun's energy in the morning helps boost leadership, clarity, and focus essential for the 1 year. The light ritual involves facing east at sunrise. East rules the sun, and offering water in a copper vessel. Open east-facing windows to allow natural sunlight to energize the home, enhancing that leadership and focus. You can also chant the Aditya Hridaya Stotra or simply express gratitude for the day.
Next, space cleansing to deal with stagnant energy, which can cause emotional fog or fatigue.
To cleanse stagnant energy, especially in the fourth house, which is the home, burn grounding incense like sandalwood, lavender, or camphor, moving clockwise around the home, paying special attention to corners where energy collects. For a deeper energetic detox, rock salt and eucalyptus oil can be added to bath water once a week. This ensures your physical space reflects the mental clarity you're striving for.
And setting the home environment for success, especially the workspace and entrance, which the sources call the energy mouth.
The main entrance is critical. It's where all energy, financial, and relational enters. Keep it well lit, clutter-free, and decorate it with fresh flowers. Vastu cautions against placing shoes or dustbins near the main door. A specific spiritual cleansing ritual is to sprinkle Ganga Jal holy water from the Ganges River at the threshold on Fridays to cleanse residual negative energy. In the workspace, keep the desk organized, perhaps with a small crystal or plant, to channel focused productivity.
Let's discuss colors and crystals, linking wardrobe choices to planetary energy.
Since Saturn rules Capricorn and governs discipline, wearing blue or black on Saturdays is highly recommended for grounding and receiving Saturn's stabilizing energy. For overall support throughout the week, amethyst, the lucky crystal, is suggested for mental clarity, enhanced intuition, and grounding. And for the financial strategy, keep a piece of citrine in your wallet or cash drawer to invite abundance and steady cash flow.
The power of sound mantras are also recommended daily.
Daily chanting for 5 to 10 minutes helps align personal frequency with universal energy. For overall peace and divine protection, the mantra Om Namah Shivaya is recommended. If Capricorns feel blockages, mental stagnation, or feel overwhelmed by obstacles in their path, the mantra Om Gan Ganpate Nama is advised, as Ganesha is the remover of obstacles.
Finally, let's talk about the specific Vastu remedy to align with Saturn's stability at the end of the day.
The southwest corner of the home is traditionally ruled by Saturn and governs stability and longevity. To anchor the hard-won gains of the day and invite stability into the private domain, end the day by lighting a diya or candle in the southwest corner of the home. Follow this immediately with 5 minutes of expressing gratitude before sleep. This ritual reinforces your foundation and ensures Saturn rewards your discipline with stability.
This brings us to the final 4 essential daily practices that integrate all this advice into a routine. The non-negotiables for the strategic Capricorn.
1. Consistent journaling to release emotions and track progress. 2. Daily breath work to regulate the nervous system and manage stress. 3. Consciously blessing food and water before consumption to ensure gratitude and internal alignment. And 4. The consistent full moon emotional release ritual to process that spiritual and emotional clutter before it builds up. These are the pillars of the internal empire.
That was a comprehensive, deeply practical, strategic session for the Capricorn listener. The summary is crystal clear. 2026 demands a shift from relentless outward labor to disciplined inner foundation building.
Absolutely. The keys to success are strategic financial planning focused on long-term results, emotional honesty in relationships, and radical discipline in health and spiritual alignment. Transformation is not negotiable this year. It has to be embraced with that Aries-like courage.
The planetary story of 2026 for the Capricorn is anchored by the internal work dictated by Saturn in the fourth house. But we have to return one last time to that massive collective transit in February, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. This holds the final, most profound thought for our listener.
Here's where it gets really interesting and slightly technical, but it matters immensely. When Saturn meets Neptune in Aries, astrologically, Saturn is considered to be at its fall. What does this mean in practical terms? It means that Saturn's energy, the rigid, old structure, the fear-based control, is weakened and uncomfortable in the assertive, pioneering, heart-centered sign of Aries.
So the force of the old systems, the corporate grind, the rigidity that defines traditional Capricorn life is cosmically less effective in 2026.
Precisely. This suggests that Neptune, the divine, the idealistic, the compassionate, the humanitarian energy, has every chance to succeed this cycle. It could usher in a planetary revolution of consciousness away from outdated, rigid structures, including those systems of modern capitalism that demand brainout. The structures are weakened by the sheer idealism of the collective.
The challenge, then, for the Capricorn listener, the ultimate master builder, the embodiment of Saturn, is learning to build the new reality. That means leading with love and courage, the Aries signature, founded on emotional truth, the Neptunian ideal. You're being asked to merge the practical master with the poetic visionary.
That's right. The ultimate mission of 2026 is to bring the divine way of living down to earth, anchored in a stable, healed home life. Therefore, the provocative question for you, the Capricorn listener, is this. You are undertaking this massive, difficult, private renovation. How will your specific disciplined efforts to build your internal empire, stabilized by your newfound emotional clarity and courage, contribute to anchoring this new, more compassionate and grounded reality for the collective? Your personal transformation is no longer just for you. It is your essential, disciplined public contribution to the world shift in 2026. Get ready to act.